In 1964, a woman was attacked outside her apartment building in New York. The attack lasted over half an hour. Newspapers reported that dozens of neighbors heard her screaming, and almost none of them called the police. This is the story that gave psychology one of its most famous and most misunderstood ideas: the bystander effect. And the real explanation for why people don't help is much stranger than people just don't care. Her name was Kitty Genovese. The story that spread afterward claimed 38 witnesses watched the whole thing and did nothing. That number turned out to be exaggerated. Later investigations showed far fewer people actually saw the full attack, and some who did call police weren't taken seriously at the time, but the case caught the attention of two psychologists, John Darley and Bibb Latané. And they asked a deceptively simple question: does having more witnesses to an emergency make people less likely to help? Not more. So in 1968, they ran an experiment. They put people in separate rooms, told them they'd be having a discussion over an intercom system with other participants. Except there were no other real participants, just recordings. During the fake discussion, one of the recorded participants would suddenly pretend to have a seizure, stuttering, calling for help, then going silent. Here's the twist. Some people were told they were the only other person on the call. Others were told there were multiple other people listening in too, and the results were almost the opposite of what you'd expect. When someone believed they were the only person who could hear the emergency, about 85% of them left the room to get help, almost immediately. But when people believed multiple others were also listening in, that number dropped to around 31%. And even when they did help, it took much longer. More potential helpers, less actual helping. That's the bystander effect. So why would having more people around make each individual person less likely to act? Psychologists point to a few overlapping reasons. The first is called diffusion of responsibility. When you're the only witness, the responsibility to act sits entirely on you. But when there are other people around, that responsibility gets mentally split up. Some part of your brain assumes someone else will probably handle it, even if nobody actually does. The second is something called pluralistic ignorance. This one's a bit stranger. In a confusing or ambiguous situation, people often look around at how others are reacting to decide how they should react. But if everyone is doing the exact same thing, calmly looking around, not reacting, each person interprets everyone else's calm as a sign that maybe this isn't actually an emergency. Meanwhile, everyone is secretly thinking the exact same thing, and nobody moves first. So the crowd isn't full of people who don't care. It's often full of people who are just as concerned as you'd expect, but who are all reading each other's outward calm as permission to stay calm too. There's a third factor too: evaluation apprehension. Basically the fear of stepping in, getting it wrong, and being judged or embarrassed in front of everyone else watching. When you're alone, there's no audience to embarrass yourself in front of. When you're in a crowd, that fear becomes part of the calculation, even if it's subconscious. This isn't just about extreme emergencies. The bystander effect shows up constantly in much smaller, everyday moments. Someone looking visibly lost and confused in a busy place, someone struggling to carry something heavy, someone who seems upset. In a crowd, it's easy for each individual person to assume someone else, someone closer, someone more qualified, will step in. And study after study since the 1960s has confirmed the same basic pattern. The more people present, the lower the odds that any single one of them takes action, at least without something breaking that pattern first. Here's the useful part. Researchers have found a surprisingly simple way to counteract the bystander effect, both if you're the one needing help and if you're a witness trying to make sure someone actually gets it: specificity. If you're in trouble in a crowd, instead of shouting, "Somebody help me," research suggests pointing at one specific person and saying something like, "You, in the blue jacket, call an ambulance." That directly breaks diffusion of responsibility. There's no ambiguity left about whose job it is. And if you're a witness who notices something might be wrong, being the first person to visibly react, even just audibly saying, "Is everything okay?" can break the pluralistic ignorance loop for everyone else around you too, since now there's a clear signal that this situation is actually being taken seriously. The unsettling part of the bystander effect isn't that people are secretly cruel or indifferent. It's that ordinary, decent people can end up doing nothing together for reasons that have almost nothing to do with how much they actually care. Which might mean the most important thing you can do in an emergency isn't just noticing something's wrong. It's making sure you're not quietly waiting for someone else to notice it too. If you found this interesting, there's a whole series of psychology experiments like this one, some way stranger than this. Subscribe if you want the next one, and let me know in the comments if you've ever actually experienced this yourself.